seems to be a pretty common thing on Acadias, Outlooks, Traverses, Enclaves. So I picked up a headlight for it. I'm going to change it in the morning because, of course, you always find out about these things in the middle of the night when you're driving in the dark. And didn't realize it during the day, but once it gets dark out, you notice that you don't have as much light shining down the road as you did before. So I'm going to go to bed. I'll see you in the morning. We'll get this changed.
The first thing that's helpful is turning the wheels away from the headlight that you're going to replace. To access the headlight, you need to remove the front half of the inner fender well liner. There's a series of 5 T20 Torx head screws along the inside of the fender well, and then 2 more underneath near the front of the air dam. Now, being that these are getting road grime and debris thrown at them all the time, I find it helpful to take a small pick and clean out the head of the screw. Next, you'll need a T20 Torx bit or screwdriver to remove the screws. If you're in a climate like I am that uses a lot of salt in the wintertime, it's not uncommon for the screws to rust into the clips and break off when you try and remove them. So if that's the case, then you'll have to run to the parts store and get some new clips and screws later. Next, there's a series of these 8 plastic 2-piece clips. There's 2 up here above the wheel. There are 3 behind the strut. You can see the center one here. There's one below it and one above it. Here's the one below it from a different angle, and then there's one to the front half of the liner. There's also one to the front of the tire on the very back wall of the wheel liner, and there's 2 more underneath on this flexible flap. I'm sure there's a special tool for this, but I just use a flathead screwdriver. And like I said before, they get full of road grime and debris, so they kind of pry out hard. You'll have to work at it and get the center part to wiggle loose. Once you get the center part almost all the way out or completely remove the center part, then the outer part will pry out of the wheel liner. Once you get all those removed, then you can wrestle and fight with the liner and get it to rotate down towards the ground in front of the tire. There is a couple screw heads that stick through, so you might need to pry down away from those to get it to rotate forward. Here you can see the round plastic cover on the back of the headlight, just a quarter turn and that pops right off. There's the headlight and the back of the reflector. Another quarter turn to the left and that will pull out from the reflector. You push in on this tab on the top here and the bulb unclips from the harness. This is the replacement H11 bulb. You can see I put some rubber gloves on because you don't want to touch the glass of the bulb with your bare hands. The oil on your hands will cause the bulb to fail. Take note of these 3 unevenly spaced little metal tabs around the base of the bulb. That's what locks the bulb into the housing, so the bulb can only be installed in one way. Clip the new bulb back into the wiring harness and then carefully install it back into the reflector and give it a quarter turn to the right to lock it into place. Now we'll reinstall the plastic cup on the back of the headlight housing, give that a quarter turn to the right to lock that into place. But before we go any further, we should probably check and make sure that the headlight actually works before we reassemble anything else, so we don't have to take it all back apart again. I guess that worked, so now we can wrestle the fender liner back into place. The front fender liner that we just removed fits behind the back fender liner, so when you slide it up in there, you're going to have to pry the back one out so that the one we just removed will slide in behind it. On these outer plastic clips, I find it helps to squeeze them a little bit with the pliers so they install easier. Once you get the outer clips installed, you can line the inner clips up with the slots on the outer ones, push them in, and that'll lock everything into place. The upper part of the wheel well liner tucks in behind the little metal lip of the fender. Don't forget to replace any of these clips that may have been damaged when you remove the screws. They can just be pried out and a new one popped in place.
So there, simple as that. I don't know what they were thinking when they engineered this thing. Changing headlights is one of the more infuriating things about this vehicle, and for some reason you wind up having to do it a lot.